Welcome back everyone. For today's video we've invaded Craig's place, and why is that?
We're going to be pulling apart my little home studio, and we're going to be building a set for our YouTube channel. And to speed up the process and show you what we've done, we're going to film a short time lapse.
Also today we're going to show you what our first cameras were and talk about how we stay interested in the craft of photography as professional photographers. So sit back, grab the popcorn and enjoy the show.
We're back after that time lapse of our little setup and cups of coffee in hand, and we're ready to have a chat.
Yeah, so first of all, we're not related.
No, get that question a lot. We do have the same surname, but we actually met on one of my very first Sony A7Cii workshops, actually out at Lake Mulgara. It was a Astro workshop and a camping one at that. So it was a two-night little adventure. And
Craig camped and I stayed in the cabin.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I do remember that. But yeah, that's where we first met, and we've been inseparable. No, we've been inseparable. I can't even say the word.
Inseparable.
Inseparable
No,
ever
I can't
since.
say it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has been funny. It does raise a few eyebrows, but no, he's the young handsome one, and I'm the grumpy old man.
Never actually asked you. Do you have a middle name?
Yes, I do, Desmond.
Oh, okay. I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No.
You're too poor to have a middle
That's
name.
right.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. Yeah.
Actually, my wife doesn't have a middle name. Her father decided that you spend too much time filling out forms with your middle name. Now all you do is get asked what your middle name is, and no one believes you don't have one. So it didn't work out too well for her. Anyway, so Craig, you were born in Scotland, weren't you?
Yes. I came over to Australia with my family at the age of 11. And
so had you done any photography before you, as a youngster?
Yes. At the age of 9 or 10, I used to walk into the docks of Aberdeen with a little film camera. In fact, I've got one very similar, just one of these little Kodak Instamatic film cameras.
I remember those.
Yeah, this is one of my little film collections. No, my camera collection. No, this is one of my cameras that I have in my collection. So yes, obviously at the age of 11, film was the only thing that was around in those days. And then I guess my interest then came back when I had children, and shot for the first couple of years film, and then moved into digital. But then much later than that, I then upgraded those cameras and bought my first DSLR again, which I have. It was a
Hoarder.
Yeah, a Canon 350D. So yeah, very simple camera. Bought that on the way back from Scotland at Heathrow Airport, and shot with that for a few years, and then got more and more into photography, and jumped straight, big upgrade to the upgraded to the 7. What are they called?
Was it a Sony camera?
No, I can't remember.
Oh, thank God for that.
What are they called? 5DR. Then moved on to a much bigger
Canon,
upgrade.
such a memorable camera.
Yeah. Canon 7. I've forgotten again.
Five?
Canon 5D Mark III.
That's one.
Yeah. And then again shot with that for quite a number of years, gaining experience along the way, and then moved on to the 5D Mark IV. I keep getting the names mixed up. The very similar.
Yep.
R3, R4, R5.
I don't think we've got an R4 yet. But
No, we haven't.
No, they don't.
Don't we?
R3, R5, R7,
Oh,
R8,
okay.
R10.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe an R1 coming
very
up before.
confusing.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
just a quick update for you Canon fans.
Now
At least two of you
I've
out
lost
there.
track of what my story was now, but yeah. So I guess the things that I probably shot early on was a lot of cityscapes in Brisbane, and then further moving in from there into street photography, and then I guess my first paid sort of work over probably 10 years ago was then shooting nightclubs for specifically for Brooklyn Standard in Brisbane. They then grew to having 4 venues and shot for all of those venues. I no longer capture photos for those guys, mainly because I don't enjoy being up at 1 o'clock in the morning anymore. So it was maybe something I should have picked up. You know,
and you were saying it was the low lights that could. Oh, no, sorry, it's the low light that you didn't like there.
Yeah,
Yes,
the low light.
Yeah.
So
the clientele's fine at Brooklyn Standard, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of experience gained, you know, in shooting in low light there, and actually ran a couple of workshops in Brooklyn Standard on that very subject. And then moved into teaching photography for a company called Photacademy, and then went along to a Sony roadshow. That's where they, we go around in a bus to every state, and went along to that, and actually bought my very first Sony camera that night, which was the A7R3 with a 24 to 70 G Master lens. And then sort of had to rush home, or not rush home, but go home and tell my wife what I'd done, and spent $6,000 odd that night. My plan was to use my L series lenses, and in fact I did that early on with an adapter. The adapter itself was like $700. And then during that Sony roadshow, one of the head guys from Sony asked me what else I did, and I told them I was teaching photography, and he mentioned that he may have an opportunity coming up early in the next year, and I sort of brushed it off, not thinking that a company such as Sony would be interested in anything that I have done or would do. But in any case, I got the call early January, and they asked if I would like to become a Sony digital imaging advocate, and I guess the rest is history. So I was still running workshops for Photacademy, and also doing workshops for Sony Scene as well.
Yeah, so my background's almost identical, except completely different. My first camera, I think, was a type of Instamatic. It wasn't the pop-up one; it was the one you actually wound the.
Oh, you are much older than that.
Yeah. So I had one of those, so I moved into journalism actually first up, working with my father on magazines, and had to do basically everything. So learned photography along the way, and I just happened to have one of Craig's cameras, which was actually one of my first cameras, which was the Olympus OM series, which were absolutely outstanding little camera.
It's one of actually my favourite in the collection, actually.
Yeah, again, film back in the day that's where we shot. Graduated into I think it was a Canon T90 maybe, shooting mainly sports.
Did you develop your own film?
Developed my own film.
Oh, you
did my own prints. Yes, did the whole bit, and I really enjoyed it. It's nothing like seeing that print come up on the paper. It's a great feeling. And spent many years just mainly in the journalism side and communications and so forth before I decided to move into full-time photography. Picked up my first Sony probably 2019, I think, after talking to a friend who had one, who I actually went on the Craig's workshop with, and Craig Parry, the Sony ambassador, met him on a commercial shoot, and he talked to me about some of the Sony gear and what was good and what I should get. So on his advice, I got the A7 II. I think I got the original 70-200 f4, which was a.
So you've always shot Sony then from going from film?
Yeah, I did. I had Olympus Micro Four Thirds for a little while back in the early days, but they were a good little camera. I really enjoyed those. But then I had nothing. I shot basically iPhone from that time until I bought the Sony, so I didn't have any other digital cameras.
Yeah, right.
So that was my first mirrorless as well. With the original 70-200 f4, which I've still got, although now I've upgraded to the 2.8 Mark II. Yes, which is a beautiful thing. And the big beast, I don't know if you can see the 200-600 back there. And gone through the 7.2, the 7.3, still got the 7.4, now using the A7Cii which we're filming on now. Finding it to be an absolutely wonderful little camera.
What lens is that?
So that's the 16 to 35 f4, which is really nice and light. It's great for the work I do. It's a great thing I do a lot of work out on mine sites, which makes it easy to carry. It's lightweight and easy to handle, and it's a great run and gun type little lens.
We also shot the little time-lapse piece on the other A7Cii, which is actually on loan from Sony. One of the advantages of being an advocate is I get to borrow almost any lens or camera body that comes my way. And also on that camera, we've got my own 20mm G lens.
I am shooting full time. Craig, you're not actually shooting full time. You're moving further and further towards making photography your full time gig.
But more so in the teaching / destination type event.
He did a destination wedding recently up in Toowoomba.
I don't know what to say. Caught me off guard for that one. Yes, I shot it's actually my second wedding that I've shot so far, and that was in Toowoomba. I'm not quite sure whether wedding photography is my thing, although I don't mind doing them. So obviously the money's good, so that might sway my what's the word? Sway my
no idea.
Cut that out.
So, how do you balance, your daytime job with being a Sony advocate, with shooting for fun, with doing workshops, with doing the occasional nightclub shoot, which you don't do anymore, I know, but you still do some events as well.
Yeah.
How do you balance all that?
Yeah, just on that, I don't really advertise for work. I, if it comes my way, then I'll decide whether I want to do it or not. But I think balance is definitely important in photography. Otherwise, I think for me at least, doing it full time at one point, I lost interest in doing my own little projects. The street photography, the cityscapes. But I think definitely. Setting time aside for your own personal projects is very important. If you're just doing pro photography the whole time, I think you'll get burnt out in the end, and you lose the enjoyment. Definitely. I think just work balance is very important.
So your latest passion. So Craig is a Australian resident, I believe.
Yes,
but he's a temporary Australian, because he also has 2 motorbikes. So that's your latest passion, and you're managing to combine that with your photography as well?
Yes, so that, as I say, shooting things like cityscapes, I got sort of a little bit tired of doing the same thing over and over again and moved to street photography. So now adding this other element or other form of enjoyment for me, I can go out and ride my bike on the weekend and also take photos of said bike. It was never my plan to have 2 bikes, and come tax time, I'll probably have to sell the other one anyway. But I do thoroughly enjoy taking photos of my motorbike in different. Half the challenge is actually going out and finding those different scenes. I do, as I get older, I like the whole vintage sort of look. So I'm currently or constantly seeking those. Old buildings, or I've even ridden all the way to Toowoomba, and there's lots of I need to spend more time in Toowoomba actually, because I only saw a handful of spots that had the time before I could get back to Brisbane. So I do enjoy the mix of photography and my other new passion.
Yeah, it is important. I mean, I shoot mostly corporate work, so I spend a lot of time shooting on mine sites and for companies building their brand and so forth. But my passion's always been the surf, the beach, so I spend a lot of time down the coast, surf photography, beach photography, seascapes. and that, it really does give you that extra little something. It's just something different to keep you interested in the craft and getting you doing something different.
I think even doing what we're doing now is different and sort of, it's another element to add to it all.
Says the guy who doesn't have to edit it.
Yeah.
But I've also thrown drone into the mix, so that's another level of anxiety to add to everything else. So so that's important.
Have you lost a drone yet?
I haven't lost a drone yet.
Okay.
No. I
you own more than one. You own two.
I own two. Yes. I did clip a tree with one, but it stayed up in the air, so that was all good. Don't fly blind, people. Remember the rules. So talking about that. The professional side and how we go about it. I moved into it. I'd always shot. I'd shot professionally previously. I was at one point an actual Canon professional, believe it or not, back in the early 90s. Yeah.
Wow.
But I moved into it while I was still in a corporate job. I was taking some side gigs. When I left that corporate job, I decided I didn't want to stay in journalism, and I moved into full-time photography because I had something behind me to sort of get that started, and through those connections that I had in the resources sector, I managed to pick up a few good gigs, which has sort of pushed me along. You're sort of the same. You've got something behind you, and you can slowly phase that out if you want to and move into photography.
I've been self-employed for over 20 years, and for those that don't know, I'm actually an electrician by trade.
So if you need any lights fixed, fans installed,
that was well over 30 years ago. So showing my age now, but I never got where we were going with that.
Moving from one career to another, how you whether you can transition to professional photography.
So I guess having one job that's also being self-employed gives me that freedom to obviously take on photography jobs as they come in. So if there's a day that I do have a wedding, then I can pretty much just work or move my other work around that and take a day off to shoot that, or 2 days. Or likewise when I go to Antarctica, for those that don't know, in 2025 with Sony, I'm heading to Antarctica with a group of other photographers. So again, I've
still got places available.
Yes, only 4.
See the link below.
Yeah. So I can take time off to accommodate that, and also next year in 2024, at the end of 2024, we'll have another destination that I'll once I know more info, I'll share that with you. But yeah, it's. So
is that how you would suggest others who are looking to get into professional photography? Is it
unless of course you're financially set up and you can put a hard line in the sand and say, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to be a professional photographer. That would be nice, but for at least me, that's not something. I've got 4 kids, only 3 living at home now, but still at the expense of keeping the family fed sort of makes the decision quite easy for me that I've got to do a little bit of both.
Where are the opportunities in photography? I mean, product photography, that's a hard one these days with AI. People don't want to pay for a photographer to come on and shoot a serial box when they can just generate it.
Yeah.
Weddings, it's a very competitive area. Family portraits, very sort of cutthroat. Print sales, I don't know anyone who makes money.
It's all very tough. I think firstly you've got to start of what it is you actually enjoy capturing, and start from there. Gain experience. Get the quality of your work up to a standard where people start saying, "Oh, you should go out and get paid for what you do,"
and not just your wife, your kids, and your mum.
Yeah. So there's a ton of different genres that obviously you can get paid to do. None of which are easy. I've done print sales, corporate headshots, food photography, as you say, product photography as well, for a period of time. And to shoot one product, like a high-end product, can take a whole day. So with the introduction of AI, of course, that would be cut down to minutes. So I think there's still a place for photography in that genre, but I think it's going to be mixed with AI. So going back to your question, I think it's basically just start with what you enjoy, what you know, and just learn as you go through. And for me, it was the same thing. I started on one genre, and then slowly developed that first, and then went into another one. And it was all pretty much learn on the job sort of situation. Yep. Someone would ask me to do something, and I would, they would say, "Oh, can you do a corporate headshot?" And
of course I can.
Yeah,
and then work it out later.
That's right. YouTube University is very good. I think that's definitely where you've got to start.
What are some of the good parts about photography?
I think just the freedom of doing, the jobs that you want to do. If obviously some photographers will take on any work, but for me, I'll take on the jobs that I can do, jobs that I enjoy, definitely the freedom and the if I want to work a 4-day week, then I can, as long as the money's coming in. That's the big one for me.
Yep. And the downside?
Downsides there's not too many for me. I really enjoy and have a passion for photography. And also have a passion for teaching photography.
Upside is you're doing something you really enjoy, and as long as you find that balance that Craig and I are talking about there, it doesn't feel
like a job for a lot of the work that I do. If I'm doing a photography gig, then it's sort of I'm getting paid for what I enjoy doing.
Yeah. The other thing is, and Craig touched on it before about being a bit choosy about his clients. That's a big thing. Is that most, if not all, well, probably all of my regular clients are very good. They give me latitude to do what I want to shoot, what I want to shoot, how I want, and I'm presenting them with product that they want. I've had probably 2 clients in the past who weren't my regular clients. They've been passed on by someone else, and I wouldn't work with them again because one, they didn't know what they wanted. So when they got what I gave them, it wasn't what they expected.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at clients, just be very clear about what they want of you, what they expect. If they don't know what they want, push them, just and tell them what you're going to give them, because otherwise, you do end up at the end of the job going, that wasn't much fun. Why did you go to Sony?
Well, as I said, before I went to the roadshow with Sony, I actually went along to a Canon event when they brought out the first mirrorless, whatever that was called, I can't remember. And I didn't like their first offering, primarily because the big thing that stood out was that I only had one card slot. And there was a few other little things that I didn't quite like. They weren't necessarily a deal breaker, but I thought when the Sony Roadshow came up was soon after that. I thought I'd go along and see what they had to offer, and obviously loved it at the time, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So you mentioned Sony Roadshow. Are they coming back?
Well, the last one I did, it's funny as how it's gone full circle. I went to a roadshow to buy my camera, and then I was part of roadshow with Sony just before the start of COVID. Mm-hmm. So I got to run a few events in Brisbane, and then they were going to move to Sydney or Melbourne, and then that never happened. COVID came and it was stopped. I haven't heard that it's back on the roadmap to come back again, but I definitely would like to see it in some shape or form. I think that it's a good way to get hands-on with the gear before you go and purchase it. But in saying that, as an advocate, I can obviously offer a similar sort of experience for those that are interested in either shifting to Sony or buying a new lens or body. Then they basically just need to get in touch, and I can go and do a little photo walk and get them hands-on with whatever body or lens they'd like to use. And
just quickly to wrapping up, this channel, Alpha User and Friends, or as we like to call it, 2 old guys with cameras. What's the plan behind that? What's the reasoning behind it, and where's it heading?
It's just an extension really of our Facebook group that hasn't got a lot of users. I think we're 250 or so. But we've started running a free event every last Saturday or Sunday of every month for members of the group who wish to partake, and it can be anything from just a simple street walk to the one like we did last weekend which was for doing portraiture, and we did that with another group member, Yulia, who ran the actual event.
Each month when we have the meetups, we'll do it behind the scenes. We'll show what we're doing. We'll have a chat to some of the participants. If one of the members is running, we'll have a bit of a talk to them about what they do and how they do it. But we're also going to talk to some of the members who are also either shooting full-time or part-time, and what they do, how they do it. We've got a few ideas lined up in different genres of photography. We've sort of briefly touched on our camera gear, but we're also going to get Maurice Waters in, who's the Sony digital imaging specialist. To have a chat about the various bodies and why you'd use them, why you'd use an A1 as opposed to an A9 as opposed to an A7, and why all the different A7s and what the S's mean and what the R's mean, and the FX line for your video. So we'll do a bit of a deep dive with Maurice into the whole line and what's on offer there. So
may not be in this little setup that we have going on here, but
couldn't fit him in.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll find somewhere we can get a throne for him.
Yeah.
Sit him up there. Yes, but
there's quite a bit involved in setting this up for tonight. But I think it's been worth it.
Yes, it did take a little while, longer than we expected. But
what time did you get here?
Oh God, I don't know. but it was a long haul. It was fun. It was a good way to spend a Friday afternoon. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll see you back next time. If you got any comments down below, any videos you'd like to see, jump on the Facebook page, see what it's all about. It is a closed group, but just jump on there and we'll let you in. We'll see you next time round.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Peter.
No worries.